Good evening. You're welcome to Beyond the Lockdown. This is the Joy News channel and it is free to air on your digital terrestrial platforms on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. We are live as well. And if you must leave the television set, catch the program live on myjoyonline.com or on our social media platforms. It's Facebook, it's YouTube, it's Twitter, etc. Now, finally, the mass voter registration exercise has been concluded. In fact, it shows we are learning to live with the virus, but are we doing so effectively? The exercise, however, did not end without the drama, the chaos, and sometimes the violence. That said, do you have a pass for the upcoming election in December? Were you able to participate in the exercise? I'd love to hear your experience. Now, did you encounter any intimidation along the line? How about the violence? Did you observe the COVID-19 safety protocols in place? Well, in spite of the concerns about military presence, which has been explained by the defense minister as absolutely necessary and not limited to the voter region to ensure the enforcement of border closure directive. That and more will be interrogated tonight as we go through your questions. I'll tell you about my crack panel for tonight's show. But first, of course, let me run you through our COVID-19 rankings as it stands now. Our total cases tonight stands at 40,000. We have 40,533 cases. So 41,000 just changed, 41,003 cases. That's the confirmed cases that we have currently as a country. Now, for our active cases, we have 2,458. Our recoveries and discharges is at 38,330. Our death toll is now 215. That's where we stand as a country. So new cases that we know about is 470. We have 470 new cases as a country. COVID is still with us. COVID is real. So tonight on Beyond the Lockdown, we are looking at the assessment of a registration amidst the pandemic. The success, the intimidation, the violence, and of course, the full account right here on Beyond the Lockdown. Let's go through our guest list for tonight. Representing the Volta region are the two regional chairmen of the two main political parties. I have Makafui Wanya, is the NPP chairman. We have Henry Ametepe, is the chairman of the NDC. And then we head off to the Banda constituency, the epicenter of controversy in the just ended registration exercise. We have the MP Ahmed Ibrahim and the NPP parliamentary candidate for Banda, Joe Dankwa. Now, tonight, we have the Director of Electoral Services of the Ghana's Electoral Commission, Mr. Srebo Kweku, is also my guest tonight. Also, the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, led a team of observers to monitor the exercise. I have Rhoda Osei Afo. She's the project manager. She's joining me tonight. And of course, we have Reverend Dr. Opuni Frimpong. He leads the Alliance for Christian Advocacy. He's also my guest tonight. You know how the show is going to be like. That is ahead of our peace agenda as a station. Do stay with me. I'll be right back. Then we get straight into your questions. This is Beyond the Lockdown. It's time to stay glued to your set and tell a friend about it. Thanks for staying with us here on Beyond the Lockdown. And I've introduced my guest to you. If you missed it, we have the Director of Electoral Services of Ghana's Electoral Commission, Dr. Srebo Kweku, joining us tonight. We also have CODEO. We have Madam Rhoda Osei Afo. She's the project manager of CODEO joining us. We have Reverend Dr. Kwabena Opuni Frimpong. He heads the Alliance for Christian Advocacy Africa. They monitor the exercise as well. He joins us. And then, of course, we have the regional chairman of the two main political parties in the Volta region. I have Makafui Wanya representing the NPP, and of course Mr. Henry Ametepe representing the NDC. Then we head off to Banda, where we have the MP for Banda, Ahmed Ibrahim himself joining us, and then of course the parliamentary candidate for the NPP, Mr. Joe Dankwa, also joining us. I think it's a good time to start off. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. First off, I must say you're welcome. I hope you're all doing well.
Yes, madam.
Okay.
It's good. The great is enough for us.
Indeed. Once I've been able to test my microphones and then testing your videos, let's head off to Banda, which is the epicenter tonight. And we all know that with the just ended exercise, a lot has happened in Banda and, of course, in the Volta region. It's a good time to start off from Banda because the young man that died as a result of the violence at one of the polling stations has been laid to rest. May his soul rest in perfect peace. But let me start with you, Mr. Dankwa, and then, of course, Ahmed Ibrahim. I would want to first get a sense of what really is the situation in Banda with the just ended registration exercise. I'm sure the MP will go first. Okay, so Ahmed Ibrahim, if you can hear me, I wanted to start with you in terms of the situation in Banda and your own version of what you actually witnessed on the ground. It appears okay, so it appears Ahmed Ibrahim is unable to hear us. We have Joe Dankwa. I don't know if you can hear us. We wanted to start off for Banda, but it looks like the technology is not working. Do we have Joe Dankwa? Can you hear me? Okay, so it appears he can't hear. But let's head to the Volta region then, because we've also had cases of alleged intimidation. The defense minister had cause to explain that it's not just the Volta region that we've had this military presence, for instance. And then also we'll get into our questions. So Mr. Metepe and Mr. Kafumwanya, let's hear from you first on this situation in the region. The NDC insists that the military presence was intimidating, such that people could not come out to register. Is that really the situation? Because I've heard you at a press conference also say that that's not it at all.
Well, Madam, thank you very much. We've made a very strong case concerning the intimidation, harassment, and to a large extent, the military taking active role in the registration exercise, which was so unprecedented in the history of Ghana. And it is not only the redeployment that was so significant and very worrying. It was also because they did not use the right approach, because we felt that from the presentations made by all the government spokespersons, they said it was meant to prevent people from entering the country from Togo. But we also said that in Togo, the population of those who were affected by COVID-19 was far less than even those in the Western region. So, and not only that, those deployments from the northern territory of our region, that is OT area, were further brought down to the Ketu South because they felt that the number was so high. So far, we have had over 109 military deployment in Ketu South alone. So it is a very worrying situation.
And this is the figure, and this is the official figure you are getting, 109. Where are we getting that figure from?
Oh, we have the figures because the deployment, we went further to check everybody who has come to do work in the region. So we have the facts. I won't tell you where the sources were coming from, but we have the information that we have 109 military detachment, including the Navy, in the Ketu South constituency alone.
Okay, Makafiwanya, this is the information that your opponents are picking up. They insist that there was a number of intimidation, a lot of intimidation, such that it affected the registration exercise. What is your own account of what you've witnessed? Because they're saying that 109 in Ketu South alone.
Good evening and good evening to your cherished listeners and Joy News. Proud to the commencement of this all-important exercise, the opposition NDC cast gloom and threatened mayhem, creating anxiety and near panic among the public. In fact, they charged the political environment and got many unsuspecting people to support them. They kept changing the goalposts and losing court cases after case. It was as if Ghana would burn at the commencement of the registration exercise. No wonder they kept fomenting trouble and making noise every now and then. The U-turn of the NDC was no surprise to most political observers, as the NDC is an inconsistent and unpredictable group of people. When the NDC realized that they were going to lose face and fall on their own dagger, having lost the court cases and feared ridicule, they made a U-turn. They made a U-turn, but not without making noise and crying wolf on rooftops where there is no wolf, and keep bastardizing the Electoral Commission as part of their old tricks. But in all this, we must praise the Electoral Commission for its resolute stance, fortitude, accommodation, and flexibility in the face of the doomsaying and the NDC propaganda, nuisance, and threats. We think that the real challenge faced by the Electoral Commission so far, MFR, has been the NDC than any operational logistics of COVID-19 pandemic. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic was another trump card for the NDC to oppose the registration exercise in spite of all the assurances from the EC that adequate logistics an arrangement has been made.
Okay. So from where you stand,
to address the legitimate concern and other protocols, MFR, we can measure the success of the entire exercise on the following grounds: the legal defeat of the NDC and their big U-turn to accept the process, the operational and logistics arrangement by the EC to ensure smooth processes, cooperation according to the process by all stakeholders could be a great measure of success.
Okay.
So the NDC has no business. The NDC has no business in saying that the borders should not be protected. The government has all the business to protect the borders.
Okay.
Prior to the registration, even when to protect people from coming in with COVID issues.
Well, Mr. Wanya, these issues, I will come to you, and this is just your opening comments, because we have a number of questions that are coming in from our audience that we would like you to address, because there have been concerns that in your bid to diminish, the fortunes of the opposition NDC in the region, that's how come you employed a number of tactics, including intimidation. These are some of the questions that are coming in. I'll put them to you shortly. But we have the EC, Cordeo. I'll come to you, Mr. Makafui Wanya. Let's take a quick 10 and then we'll come to you on that, because there are questions that you would have to answer as well. But we have the EC and of course Cordeo, and then Reverend Dr. Opuni Frimpong joining us. But before I get to Dr. Strebo Kwaku, who is with the EC, I'm sure you have the final take on this round when it comes to your own assessment. You've described it as successful. But let's hear from Cordeo. Let's hear from Cordeo first, Mr. Makafui Wanya. I would introduce Madam Rhoda Osei Afo on this. You led a large team to monitor the exercise around the country. Quickly, what would you say is your initial assessment of the just ended exercise? You would have to unmute yourself. We can hear you. Great. We'll try again. Yes, we can try again. Unfortunately, it looks like technology is not on my side today, but we rebuke every works of the enemy against the technology tonight. It will definitely work. But Reverend Dr. Opuni Frimpong, if we can try yours as well, I would want to also find out, you led a team of clergymen to also monitor the exercise. Your initial assessment of the just ended exercise.
Yes, MFA, thank you for the opportunity. And let me say good evening to your cherished viewers. Like you said, yes, the EC gave us accreditation to monitor the registration exercise. And we were within 6 regions. That's the Greater Accra, Volta region, Eastern Ashanti, Bono, and Northern region. And we are a team of 100 pastors from different denominations. Now, if you ask me to do the assessment, I want to do it with some of the initial concern, the concern of time constraint. Some people felt that the time was too close. The EC may not be able to do a good job, and some potential registrants may be left out. There was a concern, of course, COVID-19 was a major concern confronting us. And then we had legal challenges plus others, demonstrations and all that. Now, if you consider all these concerns that were raised before June 30th and coming to the end of the exercise on August 6th and today for the mop-up, I would say that from the field, the report we have received, pictures, videos, it's been very remarkable. For us, the process has been very successful, even though there are challenges, some of them that could have been avoided, like the death of this 28-year-old young man at Banda and other things. But maybe as we continue the conversation, the issues may come up.
Did you get reports? But did you get reports of violence, intimidation anywhere? Did your men also report any such?
As you know, coming to us no. That we were attacked, no.
Okay.
But that we witnessed because Banda falls within Bono region. I was there the whole week. So that report, yes, Greater Accra is within our the regions we monitored. Ashanti region, Aswase, and Abu. So yes, and you see, the violence had something to do with accusation and counter-accusation of busing of people from the two leading political parties, NDC and MPP. In fact, some of the polling stations, some of the minor political parties did not even have representatives. They did not send representatives. Mainly the two leading. And for us, when Dr. Srebo and see the orientation they gave us at Accra Research, I had opportunity to observe the IPAC meetings and other meetings. It was clear that all electoral irregularities must be directed to the Electoral Commission, and criminal bit must go to the police. Unfortunately, we had some ministers of state, members of parliament, aspiring members of parliament, political party leaders who were interfering in the process, interfering in the sense that instead of filling the challenge form, they determine who they will want to allow to register and those they will not allow to register. And that is where the violence emanated from, in the form of insults, beating, destruction of properties, and some pulling knives and guns, and even unfortunate death. So that we witnessed violence. But I must say, there were few, there were pockets. You know, it wasn't a widespread. However, a death of just one young person is too many for us in the name of registration of voters.
Well, you summed it up nicely, but of course, there are still questions that will come to you on. Let's bring in Dr. Srebo Kweku now at this point, once we're able to resolve the other technical challenges with Rhoda's Zoom and then also at Banda, because that's the epicenter. We'll definitely want to get the perspective from there. And then once we get the questions as well. Dr. Srebo Kweku, did the political parties behave themselves? But before you answer that, I would want to find out quickly, will there be an extension of the exercise? A yes or a no quickly? Then we can get into the other issues.
No.
No. Why not?
Yes. Why should it be?
Because
unless you have the grounds to demand for it.
Okay, because there are people who say that because of the intimidations in some regions, especially the Volta region, for instance, a number of people were not able to go out to register. That has not come to your attention, has it?
No, that's why we did a mop-up. So I don't think there are any grounds for any extension.
Okay, so what's next after this? You've done the mop-up today. Do we know what's next?
Hello, Paka.
You are aware that we are doing the deduplication. And I want to explain that because we did the registration offline, we cannot detect multiple registration. So it is only when the data is exported to the data center that the system will do the deduplication. And what deduplication means is that, assuming you have 15 million people's data in it, and one person's data is sent onto the system will match the biometrics, both facial and thumbprint, and the bio data, that is the particulars, with the 50 million in the system. Before the system will say that it is unique. Unique means that it doesn't exist. If it realizes any resemblance, then to flag it as multiple.
Okay.
Then you have to go to the adjudication to handle that.
Okay. So the last time we checked, you said you had exceeded your target, over 15 million or so, including the mop-up exercise today. I don't know if you have the figures in terms of where exactly we are.
I don't have the mop-up for today. But as at the end of the main exercise, the field one, we had registered 16.8 plus.
Okay. 15.8. And I was asking you earlier if the
16.8.
16.8, 16. Okay. So I was asking you quickly if the political parties, as Director of Electoral Services, your own assessment in terms of how the political parties conducted themselves at the various polling centers.
I will start by saying that
if the political parties will abide by the rules, regulations governing any electoral activities in Ghana, Ghana will be the best place to run elections.
But did they do so?
Not at all. Not, and I will not tell lies. They did not.
They did not.
If they had done that, the tension, the attacks, and the rest that you are talking of would have taken place. And if you listen to Reverend Dr. Puni Frimpong, he has been part of all activities, all the meetings, APAC meetings, testing the case and everything. So he's now an expert in electoral service as well as registration is concerned. So whatever he has said, I am 100% support of him.
But why do they bust? I'm sure you've been interacting with them. This busting issue, I've been trying to wrap my head around it. Why do they do it?
I mean, you read that recently when the WAIC, you heard what happened. The students are saying that they are being frustrated in the attempt to cheat the system. So that answers your question.
Okay, so let's go to Rhoda because we have to get into the questions that have coming. Rhoda, I'm sure we have a better connection to you now. I'll take your initial comment on CODEO's assessment of the situation that just ended exercise.
All right, thank you very much. Can I be heard now?
Yes, clear, loud and clear.
Okay, all right. First of all, let me say that I think going into the registration exercise, some of the key concerns that came up as far as the COVID pandemic is concerned are two things. One, the impact of the COVID on the registration exercise. You can talk about turnout and general participation in the processes. And then the second thing was the impact of the exercise also on the pandemic in terms of the spread. Now, going in the initial stages, if you look at what happened, there were a number of challenges, especially with crowd control, social distancing, and all of that, challenges with that. But in the subsequent phases of the exercise, this improved. The EC stepped up, and many places really were able to respect the health and safety protocols. There were other places where these were not respected all through to the end of the exercise in phase 6. So there were those challenges, but generally, if you look at what has happened over the 6-week period, and you look at the numbers that have come up, it's quite impressive, and I think generally it's gone quite smoothly. If you look at the COVID numbers at the beginning of the exercise, the numbers around July 2nd in terms of the number of people who had infections, and if you look at the numbers we have today, I think we've sort of doubled the numbers. If you look at the number of deaths at the beginning of the exercise and the number of people who have died as of today, it's almost also a double if you look at what had happened for the first 3 months or so of the pandemic, and over the 6-week period, the number of deaths that have been recorded. But there are issues about as to whether you can really link this to the exercise, because again, within this period, there have been the easing of the restrictions, the general restrictions on human movement and social gatherings. So it's a bit, if you want to go into that, you have to do a lot more analysis. But generally, I think it's gone quite well. The EC has been part of its back. If you look at the logistical arrangements that they rolled out, I think things quite went well. The availability of materials, the movement of equipment, and issues like that. And of course, they are saying this has been the best exercise. We expect that in 2020, when we are doing a biometric voter registration exercise, it should be better than what we did in 2012, when it was the first time that we were doing an exercise of that nature. So yes, the benefits of experience should improve. This is how things are supposed to be. The way in which we conducted our elections in 1992, in 1996, it's really not the same as the way in which we do it. A lot has changed. So we expect that the processes will improve as time go by. But having said that, there are also other issues that we really need to pay attention to. I would lead the electoral commission that they shouldn't be captivated by the numbers that they have registered. Some of the concerns that have been coming up with regards to people being intimidated or people being prevented from registering, they should really give some ears to these concerns. They shouldn't leave it that this is a political battle between the NDC and the NPP, and so far as they've gotten their 16 million or the numbers, they are okay. If even we have 1,000 Ghanaians who feel genuinely they qualify and they have not been able to register, the EC must go into this. The NDC has been raising issues. can the EC request of them specific areas where they feel that people were prevented from registering? And then can the EC, as a way of meeting each other halfway, make provision? For instance, they had mobile registration teams. Currently, the registration kits are being recorded. Now they have opportunity, even if it's a day, for some of these communities, if they can use even the day and go out there and see if people really will register. As of today, in the district offices of the commission, the picture was quite mixed. There were some areas where the numbers were really low, but there were some areas where at the time they were closing, there were still numbers. In Ajumakun, we understand there were about 50 people who couldn't be registered. Even in Accra, in areas like Ayawaso, East, Ayawaso Central, and Ayawaso West were gone. Our observers have informed us about the number of people, a few people who came in, but because of the time, it was getting to 6 p.m. and they couldn't register them.
Okay.
So we may still have to provide opportunity for a few more people to register, but I would say that the EC should really look into the concerns that are coming up and not just put them aside. Okay, so Dr. Sribokweku, I'm sure you've heard Kodeo on this. They are the observers. They were also on the ground checking the situation. I'm sure these are valid reasons why you ought to look at it again, give it a second look in terms of opening it up for those who did not get the opportunity. You still insist it's a no?
Yeah, you see, what I would say is that it is early days yet. We have just finished, and it is one of these reasons that we did the mop-up. Now the reports are coming, we'll put them there. I also want to say that it has never happened in the history of Ghana that we got to the point where nobody says he has been registered. Any mass activity, automatically some people will say they didn't get the opportunity to do and that. So the reports are coming, but because of the week, we'll get the reports and we'll study and take the necessary actions if need be.
Okay, well, there are questions. We'll get into it. Let me, at this point, also welcome our radio audience on Joy 99.7 FM, together with a dozen affiliates across the country, also on myjoyonline.com. I think I have a clearer connection to Mr. Ahmed Ibrahim Banda. Ahmed Ibrahim, I should say. I always add Banda to his name. He's the Banda MP. And then, of course, Joe Dankwa, who is the MPP parliamentary candidate. Let's hope we have a clearer connection. Then we can get to our first batch of questions that we've received. Mr. Ahmed Ibrahim, you've been accused, for instance, of being one of the cause of the mayhem, or should I say the violence in Banda. They've said that it looks like busing issues, your party has been accused of it. What do you say to that? Okay, so it appears it's not working in Banda. We'll get a clearer connection. Okay, so is that Ahmed Ibrahim or is that Joe Dankwa? Mr. Ahmed Ibrahim, I think we can hear you loud and clear if that is you. But once we correct that, let's get into our first batch of questions. Is it better now? Okay. It looks like
it's somehow or better now.
Okay, great. I can hear you now. So I'm saying that give us the true picture of what the situation is in Banda. Your party has been accused of being a cause of most of the issues that has happened in Banda because of your busing. I'm asking what you say to that.
To begin with, let me say a very good evening to your cherished viewers and listeners as well. And to say send my heartfelt condolences to the bereaved family. That is about the teacher trainee who was 28-year teacher trainee who was murdered. And it was yesterday that we had to go and bury him and continue with the funeral. So my condolences to the entire family and then to the Achimota Teacher Training College as well. If you are asking me about accusation or people accusing me of busing people to Banda, and as a result of which is bringing the disturbances here, MFR is good. It's good we have Mr. Sribo also on the line in this meeting.
Oh no, it looks like we just had the network cut in that line to Ahmed Ibrahim. But let's try Joe Dankwa because this is the Banda constituency. Maybe we'll just have to do them quickly, then we can let them off because of the poor connection to that area. Mr. Joe Dankwa, I don't know if you can hear me, but I want to find out your own assessment of the situation in Banda. One person has died as a result of the violence. People have reported about intimidation. People say they are constituents, but yet they were prevented from registering.
Thank you. And let me use this opportunity to greet your terrorist viewers and listeners. Banda was a very peaceful area during the registration. I was attacked by a team led by the brother of the NDC Member of Parliament for Banda at a registration center called Subu Farmer Registration Center. The brother of the Member of Parliament and the parliamentary candidate for the NDC, Moro, led a team of macho men to attack me at a registration center. I reported the matter to the security. Unfortunately, the security was not able to get to the registration center on time. So they drove away to their hometown, which is also the district capital. I got there, and fortunately for me, the security had also got into the place. So I reported the matter to the security, and the gentleman decided to run away. And I saw the security chasing him. So we went away. After close of registration, our monitoring teams were returning to the district capital so that each and everyone could go to his or her community. Unfortunately, the Member of Parliament for the area and the parliamentary candidate for the NDC, Ahmed Ibrahim, guys mounted barriers, 5 barriers in their hometown, in that community, Banahim group. So when the monitoring team, which was escorted by the security, got there, even the district police commander had to run away for his life. And guys, the Ahmed Ibrahim guys descended on them heavily. Some of them shooting, some of them throwing stones, and all sorts of missiles were fired on them. 3 of our cars got destroyed. 1 BMW got burnt by these guys at Banahim. 2 police officers were also wounded by these guys belonging to Ahmed Ibrahim.
And you say this for sure, because I would quickly want to clarify. You say this for sure, that these men were sent by Ahmed Ibrahim. How do you know that for a fact?
You know something? The thing, as I said, happened at his hometown.
Okay.
His hometown.
And that's proof enough that he sent them, right?
Yes, that's proof enough. And this is not the first time they've been doing it on record. You remember, some years ago, a DCE was beaten and chased out into the bush. I don't know whether you recollect that even incident. These same guys did it. Nothing happened to them. Right. The NDC former constituency women organizer called Selena was brutally attacked by these same people. She reported the matter to the police. Nothing happened to them. Our former constituency secretary, Juan Anane Abdullah, during 2012 limited registration exercise, he was going around, he got to the same Banana Grove. These guys attack him. If you go to Wanchi police station, the case is still pending. All these cases are pending. In 2017, the district NYE coordinator was attacked by the same people. The matter was reported to the police.
So it appears there was a retaliation by your side. Is that the case?
No, let me land.
But we'll have to fast forward a bit more.
Yes, you really appreciate the point that I want to make. So when they got there, they were attacked. And you see, their lives were put off by the same guy. They were firing, they were throwing stones and all sorts of missiles. At the end of the day, a lot of people got wounded this afternoon, I sent some of the pictures of these wounded guys to your producer.
Okay.
And maybe he can show these things for the viewers to see what actually happened. And after all these things, unfortunately, one got dead. Right.
Okay.
It was from this attack. That's when we had one person who got dead.
Okay.
Right. So after all these things, RISEC, that is the Regional Security Committee, invited Ahmed Ibrahim and Mangusel. We met them on 30th of this month to fashion out a peace roadmap for us. After our deliberation, we agreed to sign some sort of recommendation that will bring perfect peace at Bana. And high on the recommendation was that Ahmed or myself or any of the political parties should stop busing people to the area.
Okay.
We all signed. I have a copy. He has a copy.
But it doesn't appear that you stuck to the pact or what you signed, because the pictures that we are seeing, we've seen people being bussed. We don't know if they are in this, but we are told that
after we have signed this agreement, I thought we were going to abide by that. But when you go to the constituency, these are the pictures that you have seen. The General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Esieni Ketia, visited the area and bussed people. He bussed people to the registration center.
And they are not constituent. You say for a fact that these people are not constituent.
With the security, you can see from the pictures. He had a problem with the security. The security says no. From research, we have been informed that nobody should bus anybody to the registration center. He insisted because the General Secretary, he thought it was above the laws of this country.
Okay.
And that also renewed this new confusion or problems at Bana. Well, let me put it on record. If you go to Banda, all the other communities, there are no problems at all. My community, there's no problem. All the other communities, the only community where we have a problem is where Ahmed Ibrahim comes from.
Okay, so let me quickly bring him in, and then we can wrap up with the situation in Banda, because there's a lot in the Volta region. It appears I've lost him again because a number of allegations you've made that he would have to respond to. But let's get into the question, because I'm told that I've lost his feed once more. But it's a good time to bring in the first batch of questions. So this one says, are we in the times of unprecedented politicization of state institutions, and what are the effects on our coexistence? That's from a message on Facebook. And this one also says, what do we as Ghanaians stand to lose if we live as a peaceful country? Will this country ever progress with these breed of politicians currently in charge? That's one also on Facebook. We head to WhatsApp now. Says, I want you to ask Mr. Ametepe why he made those comments about the Vice Chancellor of UHAS. Is it because he's an Achimbai tribe? This VC was appointed by Mahama, not Nanado, as he claims. We'll stay on WhatsApp. This one says, ask Ahmed Ibrahim and Joe Dankwa what they are doing to ensure that residents in Banda who have been cut off as a result of the construction of the Bui Dam get their own polling centers so they don't have to travel 14 miles on roads that hardly have vehicles apply to go register or cast their vote. So one more question for Ahmed Ibrahim and Joe Dankwa. But whilst we get a clear connection to them, Mr. Ametepe, there was a question for you. I think you held a press conference some time back on the Vice Chancellor of UHAS. I'm sure we'll return to these issues. But once it's a question, I'll have you give a quick response to that.
I believe that a lot of people did not understand what actually transpired when I spoke. I had a press conference relative to what happened in the Volta region. And I think this will offer me the opportunity to throw light on what really I said. I was quoted as saying, and I said clearly to the whole world, so far I have received over 30 countries that have sent commendation to me for making it clear that this country is not going the right way. I made allusion to the fact that Professor Mauto Avoka, the former Vice Chancellor of College of Education in Winnipeg, including 5 other people from the Volta region, Dr. Theophilus Akoli, was the finance director of finance at the university. These people were thrown out of office for doing nothing wrong against the state. They took the matter to the highest court of the land. The court cleared them. The Supreme Court cleared them. Yet, the most annoying situation that we saw was the president of the republic himself was at the investitureship of the one who replaced him, Professor Abroni. And at the same time, that was education in this country. Some time ago, there is academic freedom. But if the president of the republic could oversee a situation that led to what happened to Professor Abaka, then the question I'm asking is that why should the vice chancellor of UHAS also be sitting in voter regime where we have shown a lot of civility? In fact, actually, it was President John Mahama who appointed him. Yeah. And tenure of his office, there was no conflict. But the development in our country is showing to the line that the voter regime has become such endangered in terms of ethnic cleansing. So, and I even made a comment that very day that because of our regional outlook in our civility, Professor Japan was sitting in the voter regime and being the vice chancellor. And that does not mean, but I learned very sadly, when the University Council held a meeting, they were saying so many things that the man was doing very well, but they didn't understand what actually was saying.
So in hindsight, is it a comment? Is it a comment?
Victimized, we are being harassed, and there is a total ethnic cleansing in Ghana today, which had never happened in Ghana before.
Is it a comment? If you're giving an opportunity, you would take back or you stand by?
Hello?
I'm asking that in hindsight, is it a comment that you would stand by or you take back?
Actually, what I'm saying is that the comment I made was as a result of what happened in the University of Winnipeg. And that is why I made that illusion. But I even continue by saying that we never would not like Professor Japan to leave, but they should look at the issues affecting Votarians generally in Ghana.
Okay.
It is very damaging. It is not best for this country. And MFA, you are also a journalist. You know what Votarians are suffering. I am not representing the interests of NDC in the voter regime, but the Thai Votarians in Ghana.
And you say Votarians are suffering in the country?
When the people are at the borders, when the people at the border, they say they are Togolese. If they are Banda, they say Togolese. So where do we belong in Ghana? The comment is a very serious one, and civil society should begin to look at our political architecture. Otherwise, you see, I don't want to go that far. Ethnic cleansing is a dangerous phenomenon in our body politic. You know, the chiefs and people of the region, particularly Toby Apede, went on air about what is happening to the region. Toby Fiti went on the same tangent. The standing committee of the House of Chiefs went on the same tangent. Why are they attributing what has happened to the voter region about only the NDC? I am sorry that the MPP people, by a colleague, a junior brother, Wanya, he is looking at the performance of MPP or the attitude of MPP. But I am a Votarian looking at what is happening to Votarians in Ghana. That is the difference between me and him. Well, we all come from Anglo, but I am saying that the Votarians are the threat. And he, as a political party and the chairman of the region, should be concerned that wherever the Votarians are, it might be also of a concern to him. Well, that is my argument.
Well, comments like this, people say, create the kind of tension, and then also, you know, the fear and panic in the country. I'm a Votarian also. I don't know if we are under threat, as you say, because we've raised issues about intimidation in the voter region. We've had government explaining that it's for us to enforce the border closure. They're enforcing that. But we've heard also some people say that these men on the ground, you've said that 109 military personnel were deployed to K2 South alone. I don't know about the other areas, but that's something that we'll fact check. But Mr. Wanya, you've heard Mr. Ametepe and the NDC say that they've had these military men go into people's homes to attack them. We've heard a statement from Togbe Fiti, for instance, mention that these men were not there just to enforce the border closure, but they were intimidating people, brutalizing people. Are you saying that that is not the situation at all in the voter region?
Mr. Amatavi should be made to mention where he got the 109 military men and who deployed the military men to the voter region. What I know is that because of the situation, the deployment of the military men across the entire country, the borderlines of the country. That is what I know. But because of the effort in bringing in foreigners to register, that is what is making him say that.
But this is the World Bank. The concern is that
prove it. This is show it by evidence.
But this is the World Bank of the NDC, so to speak. So one wonders why they would want to bring in people to pile it up. That's the concern for many. It appears that it is your side that you are worried. You're trying to diminish the returns of the NDC in the region. That's how come you are deploying all these tactics.
We are not doing that. This registration exercise is meant for Ghanaians to register, and the borders have been closed. And Amidst is alleging that 109 military men have been deployed. He should show it by evidence, street proof. He cannot make unfounded allegations about the deployment of military men. Even if the military men are deployed to protect the borders, that is a legitimate exercise of government. What he's saying is not tenable, because he is not supposed to protect the borders. It's the legitimate exercise and duty of the government to protect the borders and to protect people from foreigners from coming into the country, to infest people and to register. So the NDC is the stock in trade of the NDC to keep up tribal sentiment, to cry wolf, so that, you know, wherever this deployment has been done, we've not heard these ugly noises. But it's only in the voterism, because their plan is to bring foreigners into the country to register, to beef up their numbers.
Okay.
That is their stock in trade. And to whip tribal sentiments. That is what they do. They know how to do best.
Reverend
Amidst should tell us to prove where he got the numbers from.
Okay. Well, I've been asking him about that, but he says that that's something that he will not put about. We need to definitely fact check. Mr. Ametepe, we'll need to interrogate that. But let me bring in Reverend Dr. Punifrimpo Nkodeyo. You've also been monitoring the situation. There are a number of questions I'll quickly want to go through, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll return on that. But these are certain comments that, as part of our peace agenda, we would not want to encourage. But from where you stand, what have you gotten from the ground in terms of these allegations of intimidation? We've heard from the chiefs in the area. Is it not worth looking into, rather than just dismissing and saying that because of tribal issues, so we should just let it go? Do they not have the tendency to grow to become something that we could have prevented? It appears Dr. Punifrimpo is unable to hear. Let's.
Yes, I hear you.
Okay.
I hear you now.
Okay, perfect. So I don't know if you got my question.
Now, I will plead with our political leaders, especially MPP and NDC, that we have accepted to practice democracy, and we need Democrats to practice democracy. We cannot have democracy without Democrats. And political hooliganism in democracy is just a contradiction. And sometimes that is what you witness. Let us apply democratic principles in our pursuit for political power. Okay. Unfortunately, we are not getting that. And they are playing tribal cards. Sometimes you ask yourself, why not name a crime? Why not say that Kwesi Mensah has done X, Y, Z? Why do you box people, Bono, Evers, Ashantis? There are many Ashantis that may not have any idea about what you are talking about. There are many Evers that may not understand. When you say Evers are this, Ashantis are that, if you have found some criminals, let's name them rather than boxing people. And they must know that they are hurting Ghanaians. We are not comfortable with this Evers and Ashantis and Bonos kind of game they are playing. Ghanaians are not excited about that. And if there's a better way they can play the political game, they should search for it.
Okay.
We are not comfortable. And how, when they play the tribal game like this, then they use innocent young people as mere tools of violence.
Okay.
Now, assuming you are the parent of this young man that we were told was buried yesterday, these people will go out and say, I am dead, go. Now this young man is dead and gone. We've even called and compensation and other things, and any of these MPs guarantee that they can bring this young man back to the parents. So at the end of the day, what have you achieved?
Okay.
You see, so we are treading on dangerous path, and we will plead with them. Nobody wants their ethnic caste. Ghanaians are not enthused about that. They should find a more civil, democratic principles to play the political game.
Well, Dr. Sribo, I don't know if you have the breakdown of the figures, for instance, because there've been talk that most people were not able to register in the voter region. Let's settle the score if you have the breakdown. Out of the 16.8, I'm sure you have the previous figures when it comes to the numbers that registered in the voter region. Do you have the breakdown now in terms of the numbers that registered this time around in the voter region? Has it diminished? Has it increased?
I would say that with the exception of, I think, Greater Accra and Central or something like that, all the other regions have some reductions in their figures. So that is it. But the difference between the previous voter figures and I'm not so sure of the figures. I can give you the current figure, which is around 900,000. If you wouldn't mind give me time, I'll give you the figures.
Okay.
Do you want me to give the
I would want to get particularly the voter region, because that's where the issues of concern are.
I'm coming. I'll get it for you.
Okay. So we're trying to take a look at the concerns that have been raised in terms of people not being allowed to register in the voter region especially. So we just want to compare and contrast the figures that we got from the previous registration as against what we have now. So Dr. Sribo, if you have it, you can give it to us.
Yeah. Now, what I have here is that the current figure is 928,267. It's a provisional figure. It's provisional.
Okay, that's for the voter region.
Yes, please.
Do you have the previous one?
I can get that one too for you, but give me time.
Okay. Well, I would give Dr. Sribo some time to give us that figure. But Mr. Amianetepe, you've heard Dr. Sribo Kweku. It looks like this is a general situation. Apart from Accra and Central, all the other regions have recorded a reduction. Satisfied with that? Because it looks like it's not just the voter region that has recorded a reduction in that, Mr. Amianetepe.
Yeah, the strategy that we have adopted generally in the region is in view of the persecution of our people, is that people should not travel down home as they used to do.
Okay.
So that might have accounted for the shortfall in numbers. But it is also important to state clearly that as I speak, I'm not talking of people in the voter region alone. I'm talking of all of voters in Ghana. That is why I'm asking a question to my colleague, the MPP chairman, as to whether people at the frontiers, the Ghana-Togo border frontiers, and those of people in Banda area, are they the same story they are talking about? Because wherever you see Votarians, they are Votarians. If they are in Banda, they are Togolese. If they are the Aflao border frontier, they are Togolese. So where do we as Ghanaians stand in terms of his submission? That is why I'm asking a question. Because it looks as if they are very narrow-minded as far as where they are coming from. They should look at the totality of what Votarians are going through in order to make a case to represent the aspiration of people. But I see clearly that they are only in purely for politics. They are not seeking the welfare of his people in the region. But from where I'm coming from, Votarians, wherever they are, whether in Banda, whether in New Edubiasi, whether in Tema or Accra, or wherever they are all people that I'm fighting for. So I fight for people because this is country. We have contributed a quota. We have made people who have suffered in this country. So we are very much concerned about the ethnic cleansing characterizing in the appointments of people in offices. That is why my people must also learn from. They should talk as a nationalist, not only as party people in their party. So he must learn from what the strategy I'm using in order to send a message. One Mr. Agbabiara, who was with the military of defense, was coming to come and register because they said the other people might register at the district offices. And he particularly, the regional chairman of MPP, went and arrested this man, detained him in police custody.
Well, Mr. I'm concerned when you use words like ethnic cleansing. Is that really what is happening in this country?
No, I am saying because one Mr. Agbabiara, who was coming from Jopi to come and register at the district office of Electoral Commission, was arrested and detained in police custody, even though the man was blind.
And that amounts to ethnic cleansing? If there was no ethnic,
Mr. Agbabiara,
and that amounts to ethnic cleansing?
Military officer at the civil unit of the military defense. He was arrested and detained at police custody in spite of the fact that he was blind.
But I would want
by Wanya himself.
But I would want you to take back those words, ethnic cleansing. I'm not sure that is what this is.
If the person was not suspected of being a Togolese, he would have been arrested, even though he was coming to register at the district office of Electoral Commission. He was being arrested by Wanya himself, which something I would not have done. Looking at the status of the man, his age and other things, I couldn't have caused arrest because of politics. They must learn to show civility wherever voters are. That is my argument.
Mr. Ametepe, he's the NDC chairman for the voter region. Dr. Sribo, I heard you call me. You were going to give me the previous figures in the voter and then what you have now. Then we can take a quick break and then we'll take the next batch of questions. I can hear you now.
The old one is 999,368.
999,368. So that's the previous figure. And now we have 928,267. Well, so on that,
the difference about 70,000.
Okay, 70,000. Okay, so that's the figures in the voter region as we have it. I'm sure we'll get the rest of the breakdown. So we have 16.8 million in total in the voter region. The latest is 928,267. The previous being 999,368. A difference of about 70,000. That's the situation. Let's take a quick break here on Beyond the Lockdown. I still have my guest with me via Zoom. When we return, I'll try and go through a number of your questions that we can get quick responses to them before we wrap up this evening's edition of Beyond the Lockdown. Please stay. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us here on Beyond the Lockdown. My guests tonight, I have the two regional chairmen of the voter region, Mr. Makafui Wanya of the NPP, Mr. Henry Ametepe of the NDC. I have Reverend Dr. Opuni Frimpong. I also have Rhoda Ose Afowit Kudeo. I have also Dr. Sribo Kweku, who is the Director of Electoral Services of the Electoral Commission, also with us. Before we went on the break, he was giving us the figures in the voter region. I would want to quickly clarify with you, Dr. Sribo Kweku. We know that previously we had OT as part of the voter region. So the current figures that you've given me, is it just for the voter of all the OT? And then the previous one that you've given, are we taking anything out? Does it stand or does it stay the same? Okay, so Dr. Sribo Kweku is not with us. Let's go through the next batch of questions at this point. So we are on WhatsApp. This is to Mr. Makafui Wanya. Your party has been accused of seeking to diminish the numbers from the voter region, especially Ketu North and South, just because your party does not have a great following in the party or in the region. Wouldn't you rather focus on the good works your party says is doing in the region to win more hearts to yourself? That's the question for you, Mr. Makafui Wanya. Now, this one also says, I want to know how Kodeo rates the registration exercise and particularly what new things they are bringing on board this election vis-a-vis the strategies for monitoring and reporting going into this election, since we all agree the elections are not being held in normal times. We'll stay on WhatsApp. What's the EC's own assessment of the pandemic at this stage and how is it being factored into its strategies going into the 2020 elections? And in one of the videos out on social media, MCE for Ketu with heavily built men was seen at some registration centers inspecting documents of registrants in the queue. Do you think such actions rather have the tendency of causing your party disaffection in the region, or it doesn't really matter because you don't get their votes in the first place? That's for Makafui Wanya too, I'm sure. So these are some questions in the second batch, or is the third batch of questions that we've received. So, Madam Rhoda, I think this one, someone wants to know about Kodeo's rating of the just ended exercise. Then we can go to Mr. Makafui Wanya on some of the questions to him.
Thank you very much, Emeka. I think generally, I mean, when we look at an exercise of this nature, we look at a number of indicators. So the performance of biometric registration devices, we look at the respect of rules and regulations, and a whole lot of things. I mean, technically, if you look at the actual conduct of the registration exercise, I think that is quite clear that generally was quite smooth. There weren't many challenges with logistics, at least from our observation. There were few issues about the performance of the registration kits, but these were not widespread. I think the major challenges we had was with the role of political parties and their agents.
Okay.
So issues about the guaranteeing process or the vouching system. This is a serious issue, and I think it's one that the EC must look at carefully. Moving forward, we had raised some concerns at the initial, just before we went to the exercise, before the Supreme Court ruling, that the guarantee system has two major challenges. One is subject to abuse, and the other point is that if you don't take care, sometimes it can create tension and other ineligible people can get into the register. These concerns remain. And if you look at some of the issues that have come up today, the EEC had a statement out about the video, one of the videos that had come out where some 60 or so people had managed to register. Okay. There are, and these are suspected to be foreigners. There are other parts of the country where people have been registered, they have been even prosecuted, people have been sentenced to jail. So, and for many of these cases, when you look at it, they were able to register because they got people to vouch for them. So these are the challenges that we have with the vouching system. We are hoping that moving forward, we can really focus on building a credible database that we can use. For instance, the Ghana card issue that we have, we see how the important role that it has come to play. Now, if we had covered a lot more Ghanaians in that process, or a lot of people had been able to register, there are still issues about why the NIA has not been able to capture a lot more people. But moving forward, this is something that we seriously have to look at, because if we continue to allow the vouching process to remain, I understand there are challenges. I mean, there are instances where people genuinely can't register unless people vouch for them. But the issue is about the ID. If we have a national ID system, that challenge really would not arise. So it's something that we have to look at. Otherwise, this problem about the poison tree and its fruit and all of that will continue to come up, because you still get people who are able to manage and get through the process, just because some people are not playing their roles as good citizens, either by allowing themselves to vouch, to be vouched for, or allowing vouching for other people. So we have to look at that process carefully, because it has a lot of challenges. But apart from that, a lot of the other issues we had related to the conduct of party agents. So there are other parts where you get people basically saying, I'm not going to allow you to register because I don't know you. I mean, today, for instance, in some district offices of the Electoral Commission in Jomoro, in other parts of the country, you have party activists virtually standing there and blocking people from registering just because they say they don't know them. How can one person be in the district office of the Electoral Commission and say, I don't know you, therefore I'm not going to allow you to register? In one instance, I think in the Jomoro instance, for instance, it had to take the intervention of the district officer to come in and allow people to register. But there are other places where our observers tell us people just were helpless. They had to go back because there are other people who have appointed themselves as citizen inspectors and they are saying, I don't know you. And sometimes we focus so much on even nationality, but there are people who think that if you don't live in a constituency or a district, you cannot register. It's so absurd. So
well, there are a number of questions.
All manner of illegal activities, and they are just getting scot-free because our focus has been on politics and issues about ethnicity.
Well, I'll plead that we make it snappy at this point so that we can take a number of questions and get responses to them. So, Mr. Makafi-Wanya, there were 2 questions or so for you on your party being accused of seeking to diminish the numbers in K2 South and North, and then also instances where the MCE for K2 with heavily built men were seen at some centers inspecting document of registrant. How is it that you can know everybody in a constituency?
MFA, Mr. Amatapi cannot be speaking for and on behalf of the voter region. The voter region is not the property of the NDC and will never be. The noise about the deployment of security agencies to intimidate people was largely opposition propaganda played to perfectly fit into their anti-register campaign and their usual tribal politics.
Well, you've spoken
to... In spite of what is said about the arrest of people were bashed. There were about 15 people that were arrested by the Petro police. He has refused to say that. He was only closing in on one person. He should be truthful to himself. The issue is before the police and will definitely go to court. There are people who were arrested and cases are pending before the police and before the court. So Mr. Motepi cannot say that. He should show it by evidence. He's trying to whip up tribal sentiments in order for the people to vote for them, but to register is for us to show love to votarians.
So there's a specific question.
The work they've done so far over the 8 years period of the NDC.
There are two specific questions to you, Mr. Wanya. I would want you
lead him to anywhere.
Well, so I would want you to quickly respond to the two questions that came in for you. So they're saying that. So it looks like you missed it. So they are saying that everything that is happening, I think you spoke to it earlier, that you are seeking to diminish the numbers of the voter region in the Ketu South and North. That's your target. That's how come you're doing what you're doing. And then also they said there's a video of social media of the MCE for Ketu with heavily built men seen at some registration centers inspecting documents. Is that his business?
That is what I say is a propaganda ploy. You know, this video, they are alleging that they saw the MCE for Ketu serve a gentleman of that stature. Cannot do that. He's a man of great repute. We are not. You saw. You heard the Electoral Commission rep, Dr. Obuni, said that most of the regions, the numbers dropped. So it is not only voter, it is not only Ketu.
You mean Dr. Strebo?
Okay. Dr. Strebo, yeah.
Okay.
Ketu hitherto had a population registered listing of 149, 219. Currently, they have 139 plus. So how can you say that the NPP prevent people from registering? And largely so, a lot of places were peaceful.
Okay.
And you should show by evidence.
Let's take
salvos around and trying to paint pictures and creating tribal issues of tribal bigotry. It's not the issue now. It's about the NDC showing to the votarian what they've done so far over 8 years period.
But that's the question for you.
Allow them to be fooling the votarians.
Okay.
And when it comes to registration and voting, then these are the issues that they bring up.
So let me take some more live questions that we're receiving. So this one says that what plans do the Christian Advocacy Group intend to roll out or are being rolled out to ensure peace in the upcoming elections? What can they do to help practicalize the pact signed by the political parties? That's for Dr. Opuni Frimpong. But Dr. Strebo, yes, we have you back. Welcome back.
You know, I wanted to complete the difference so that to not be that we are concentrating on one particular region.
Exactly. And I wanted you to clarify whether OT is also part of this, because previous figures that you gave.
Western North. So Western region, the number reduced by 51,000.
Okay.
Voter is 70,000, as I said. Eastern region, 124,000. Ashanti, 58,000. I'm coming. Western North. Western North. 67,000. I have 9,000. OT 34,000. And Upper East 47,000. These are the regions that had serious reduction. So it's not voter region alone that the number reduced. Almost all the regions all the regions I've mentioned, they had a reduction. But like I said, these are provisional figures.
Okay. Well, so I also have a question for you that came in. Is asking if the EC is ready to do an independent reconciliation process for people who were stopped from registering?
As I said that, we said that it's early days yet. We are now receiving the report from the various regions. So based on the report that will come to us, then we'll analyze them and take the needful decisions. But I cannot sit here and say we'll do A and B when we don't have the report.
Okay.
Because one thing, the politicians saying it, and one thing being the actual situation on the ground. Because there are a lot of instances where areas where they were raising hundreds, they were raising 19, 50. So that should tell you that almost everybody was covered. But as I said, we are not ruling anything out. Let's wait. Let's get all the statistics. Then we can look at the statistics, analyze them, and take the necessary decisions.
Okay, so there's this also issue, I'm sure this issue keeps coming back, the issue about the borders being closed and if it is opened before December 2020 elections. Have we taken a decision yet? Because every time we ask, you say that's a decision that you'll be taking. Have we considered it?
Yes, let's get there, because we are supposed to register everybody. But the law is that if you register you less than, that I said 66-0. But you have misquoted to be 50-60.
Okay.
You can register anybody any day. But if the registration takes place less than 60 days to the election, they will not be part of that particular election. Okay. So once it is open and the people come in, based on the figure that we'll get, we'll roll out the program to register them.
Okay, so I have a quick break, but before then, Dr. Opunifin, this is another question. No, I'll stay with you, Dr. Srebo. What's the EC's own assessment of the pandemic at this stage, and how is it being factored in its strategies going into the 2020 election? Another question.
Like you said, during the registration, we rolled out the COVID protocols. We did everything with the Minister of Health and the National COVID team. As I speak to you, we have almost procured the COVID material that we need for exhibition. We are also working on the COVID material we need for the election. Okay. So we are preparing ourselves for them, and we only entreat Ghanaians to abide the COVID protocol. It is not only election time or registration time that we talk of COVID. If you move along the street, you see that people are behave as if nothing is happening. So once we should all encourage people to cultivate the habit that they should prepare themselves against the COVID. Once that is sunk into the mind, people will tune up their mind and may not have to force anybody to observe them. The law says that when you are going out, wear a mask. I mean, for you and I know that in your street and the rest, if you meet 10 people, about 9 of them will not be wearing masks. So this is what we should be thinking of educating the people. Because no matter what the Electoral Commission will do, if the people decide not to do it, you can't do anything. A person may come to the center with a mask. Immediately he finishes the registration, he removes the mask. What happens? So we should be part and parcel of it. As people are saying, it is now, we are not living in the normal times. And others are called the new normal. So we should all realize that we need to protect ourselves. Okay. So briefly, in your interaction with the health experts after the exercise or before the mop-up, do we have a direct link? We have our figures going up by 41,000 or so. Have we been told whether the registration exercise has had any impact on the figures that we have? No, it is difficult to link the registration to the COVID. Based on the figures you put today, now the active number is 2,000, right? Is it 2,000? Yes, so it means that even in theater, the figures have gone down drastically with respect to the active figures. That's what you put across. So the active figures is about 2,000 when it used to be 4,000, 5,000, the rest. So even registration has rather reduced the COVID because we educated them to use the more mask, they have reduced the COVID.
Dr. Srebo Kweku got me laughing right there. Let me take a quick break on that note, and then when we return, we'll wrap up with my team. Thanks so much for staying with us here on Beyond the Lockdown. It's time to do a quick round, and then we can do a quick wrap-up of tonight's show. Definitely, this is a show that we'll have to do again, I'm sure, with a different panel on this. But Dr. Opunifin, there was a question quickly for you on the Christian Advocacy Group and your intention to roll out or are being rolled out to ensure peace in the upcoming elections. And what can you do to help practicalize the pact signed by the political parties on vigilantism? I think that's a question for you. I'm sure they were thinking that you are the National Peace Council, but I'm sure you also have a role on this. So we'll take that as one of your final comments on this.
Yes. In fact, let me say that if we want to have peaceful election, issues about fairness also must be addressed. At the moment, you realize that there were people who did not have confidence in the challenge form side of the exercise. And instead of filling the challenge form, they decided to interfere in the process. Now we have over 30,000 complaint form, and the education committee that the EC has set up, it seems to me, must work very hard and fast to prove to people that when you fill such complaint forms, you will get answers. If we don't, moving to the future, that lack of confidence that when you fill this kind of forms, you will get nothing. And so people feel that the best way to go is to just stop people, which does not help anybody, a recipe of violence. But I believe that we need to pull ourselves together, build partnership, faith-based organizations, something we have started working on already. We have been working, Christian, Muslims, traditional leaders. We use media, especially our young people, because we've realized that these politicians are recruiting these innocent young people as mere tools of violence. There's nothing wrong for a young person to love a member of parliament, honorable, but we expect them to take the children as their own. Now they keep their own children at home and use and misuse and abuse these young people, go and do this, destroy the other person's posters, anything, I'm dead. But you know that you won't allow your own child to do some of the dirty work you are using the young people. So we want to go closer to our young people in churches, in our mosques, use TV, Facebook, other things, to tell the young people that don't do the dirty work of anybody who want to become a member of parliament, supposed to be honorable, but they are doing some dishonorable things. So it's a collective responsibility, and we will get there.
Well said, Dr. Kwabena Opunifrimpong. I would love to end on that note because I really have just 2 minutes to go. But I would end with Dr. Srebo Kweku quickly at this point because we are really out of time. My apologies to the rest of the team. But there's this, you're cleaning off the register of foreign intrusion. That's one question. How are we going to ensure that in that process we don't end up disenfranchising indigents?
So let me first talk about what Reverend was saying with respect to the challenge process. Immediately after the registration, we did the inauguration and they started sitting. So almost all of them have gone past half of the challenges. We have given them by the end of this week to finish with the adjudication. So there have been results as well that people have started even appealing. So we are not delaying the adjudication process. I'm talking of the education on the challenges. The committees have started sitting a long time ago, and I believe by the end of this week they should finish all their sittings.
Have they deleted some names already? How many have we detected so far, foreign names? How many have we detected?
No, but please, there are two things. We are talking of challenges. Those who were challenged at the registration centers. That's what I'm talking about.
And I'm also asking about the intrusion.
The one that we are referring to is the deduplication. The deduplication. Once you are exported to the database, the system will flag those that they are identified as having done more than one registration.
All right. Thank you.
And that is what.
Well, unfortunately, I'm really out of time at this point, but I promise to do this again so that we can get more from the Electoral Commission and more on this. That's it for tonight's edition of Beyond the Lockdown. On behalf of the entire team, thank you so much to my guests for making the show what it is. I am MFR Pau. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Thanks.